they bring in Mulally, they're losing $8 billion a year. That's not sustainable. He was from Boeing Aerospace, had been there his entire career, and he witnessed a toxic environment. You had a problem with your project, your vehicle that you were launching, and you were in the leadership meeting. You weren't about to tell anybody, because in the previous years, if you had done that and showed any yellow on your charts instead of all greens, you might not have a desk next week. What does that do to people's wanting to contribute and be creative and take risks? It shuts it down. So there was no growth, and there was a lot of decay. When a gentleman finally, after the 3 weeks, as he changed the culture, made it a safer culture, stood up and showed yellow and red, everyone's sitting there wondering what's going to happen. Mulally stood up and did this. And everybody began to breathe again. The man who stood up and shared that he had problems with his line became CEO of Ford Motor Company in July. His name is Mark Fields. We've gone from losing $8 billion a year to earning $8 billion a year 6 years in a row. I don't know. Is there any opportunity to do something a little bit different in your company? Step out as a leader. Do you think it took courage for Mulally to leave Boeing, where he had designed the 727s, 47s, 67s? I mean, he just retired and everything's fine. Why do you think he did it? Why do you think he came to Ford? The challenge, and he said, Ford is too important. It's one of the last remaining family-owned businesses to fail. It's an institution. We've got to do something. That's called passion. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. All right? He focused on the core values, the collaboration. No sooner had Mark Fields stood up and shared that he had a problem than 3 different engineers running other projects said, hey, Mark, I think we've seen something like it where our plan is, why don't we talk after the meeting? I think we can help you. You're not helping each other if you don't even know what the problem is. You're not communicating. How important is communication in leadership? It's essential. The 3 pillars under the entire project that we're working on are trust. I'm going to write this down. Trust, respect, and transparency or communication. Started as a pilot. 27 stores volunteered with not even knowing what this was going to look like to pilot having engagement in the stores. It's now over 1,200 stores, 4 continents, and Henry Ford's own great-great-granddaughter, Elena Ford, is in charge of it. It's so successful that it's been funded for the next 5 years, and all the concepts that we've been working on and implementing with the stores are being brought in-house to Ford Motor Company. And I just want to share all this with all. I'm here. I live in Louisiana. My commitment to this state is I'll live here the rest of my life. Anything I can do to share these ideas and concepts with you so that we can have the same kind of success and we can become #1, that's what I'm here for. And because of his efforts and his ability to transform the company, Fortune magazine picked Alan Mulally less than a year ago as the #3 top leader in the world. Now, I'm not saying he's a saint, all right? He's just a good guy. He's just a person. But he certainly was bold, and he was very experienced, and he just has a really good heart. And again, he understood that businesses don't succeed and fail. People do. All right, I'm going to give you a chance to have a little bit of a contest amongst the tables here. It looks great. We've got about 4 or 5 people at each table. If you look at the bottom of the first sheet here, it says attitude, behavior, philosophy, and technique. Now, all of those are really important when it comes to performance. Would you agree? Relationships, teamwork, business, attitude, behavior, philosophy, and technique. You're going to now have 3 minutes at your table to talk and to decide what the order should be. If you're building something like a building, which of the blocks would you want to put on the bottom? Of these 3 blocks, which one would you want to put on the bottom? The biggest one, right? It's foundational, and then you put the second one, and then you put the third one. Well, so that's what I'm trying to get you to do here, is to put them in order of importance. Which one of those 4 words do you think should be on the bottom, meaning the most important? and then work your way up. Then the next one would be, and the next one would be. So, ready? Any questions? You have just 3 minutes. Talk about it, see if you can work in a team. Go! Okay. Fine. Now this is a little bit challenging. Lots of times I'm doing this, there's 15, 20, 30 people, a little bit bigger room here, so we have very little time left. But by a show of hands, if you've got someone who's a team captain, if you had technique as your foundational building block, please, your team, raise your hand. Technique was the base? No, so no one had that, okay. If you had attitude as your base foundational block, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. If you had behavior as your foundational block, please raise your hand. If you had philosophy as your foundational, wow. Now why did you pick philosophy by a certain majority? Most of the time, this is unusual. I've never had this happen. Usually, people put attitude. And I think I know why, because attitude is trumpeted from every website, every magazine, half the books. Everyone says the most important thing in life is your what? Attitude. You know? If you want to have a higher altitude, have a good attitude, and all that kind of stuff. And I believe all of it. It's important to have a good attitude. But you picked philosophy. Because of the time I'm just going to share with you, I agree with you, couldn't agree with you more, because philosophy's been around since the Greeks 500 BC. It is foundational, your belief system. Then you combine that philosophy with a good attitude, great behaviors, done with a good technique. That's what we teach. Way to go! Give yourselves a round of applause. Most sales training is technique-based, you know, 50 closing lines and how to manipulate and all this stuff, and it's dead and it won't work in the new social media world anyway. We've been teaching something different for decades, and so it's attitude, behavior, and technique, with technique being important, but the third. Your attitude about yourself, your company, and your market. And if you have a service mentality, servant philosophy, so I like to put philosophy underneath that whole triangle, so that's where we're going. And attitude's only actually been written about and talked about for about 200 years. It's only 1/3 of the discussion of philosophy. Congratulations. You're all leaders. You're all leaders in making, yes.
You took the opportunity to add an S.
Yes.
The S is success. So if you look at it, PAP, that's PAPS, Blue Ribbon.
Anybody who drinks Pabst is successful in life. I grew up drinking Schlitz. I mean, can't call it, right?
If you're drinking PAPS, you're probably a servant that you can't afford.
That may be carrying him a little bit too far. And actually, one of the talks I do is called "Work Should Be Fun, Seriously." And so thank you very much. You have to have fun. You can tell the environment. If your workers are having fun, you're doing something right. If it's all drudgery, what happens to energy? I mean, when I'm watching these football teams and they're winning these games, are they having fun? You know, they're celebrating. I mean, they want to go play the game again. All right, because of the time, we're going to run along here. I used to work on ships. I'm on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Is there enough? This is 800 feet long. I mean, it's a wonderful ship. Is there enough salt water in the ocean to sink one ship? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like zillions of times more than enough, right? So why doesn't it sink? Without getting into the science of it, simply, why doesn't it sink? Because the captain's primary job is not to get the ship from point A to point B. It's to keep the water out. Because if the water gets in, it's not going anywhere. I don't care which way it's pointed. Now, we don't think about it. We don't worry about it because we know how to do it. We actually bring water into the ship through machinery. Storms bring water on the ship. So what do we have in the ship that I used to run to get the water out that comes in? Bilge pumps. You have them even in small fishing boats, etc., right? Might just have a bailing bucket. I mean, but that's... Right, now, so let's go from water to negativity. Raise your hand if you think there's negativity in the world. All right. Captain. Is there enough negativity to sink your ship, your personal ship? I don't even have television anymore in my house. I'm not making that up. I have too much going on to even watch it, so I listen to radio and go online and stuff, but there's so much negativity. And so what is your mission as the captain of your ship? To keep the negativity out. Now, you know something's going to get in, so you have to have a way to remove it. But we don't worry about it. We set up a process. So many ways of doing things to control and be in control of your destiny, your life. That's what leaders do. They have resolve. They are fearless. They're bold. Being timid is not a good emotion for a leader. Would you agree? Thank you so much. I think I must be right about it at the time here. Make 2015 your best year ever. Embrace some of these things. I'll be here all day. Come talk to me. I'll answer questions you may have. God bless.